Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today it's very exciting. It's going to be an exciting show. Make sure that you are seated, you have the comfort of your home and your tea and your drink, whatever you need, because I've got none other than the man himself, Advocate Arthur Marara, an attorney, a man who has written books. He has a book that is very interesting. This one is Tips for Adults. I don't know if you have heard about that, but the title itself will tell you a lot. And basically we talk about anything from the bedroom to money, to whatever, but the guru himself is here. Welcome,
Thank you so
Advocate.
much. Thank
It's
you.
good to have you.
I'm really excited to be here as well.
Oh, it's good to have you. And today I want us to talk about the Marriage Act. I'm hearing now it's no longer just an act, it's a law on its own. And we have been talking in the streets, you know, even in church, we are so confused. I'll tell you before you even start talking, I'm very confused. My confusion is, are we saying that even though I have this old chapter 37, which was called 511, whatever, my man can still have a civil partnership? What is this all about? Tell us about this.
Yeah, it's quite a long subject, but I think let's start from the basics. What does the Act seek to do? Where are we coming from? And most likely, where are we going? I think that becomes very important.
Yes.
So it's called the Marriages Act.
Right.
Why? Because it's now putting all the marriages in one place.
Right.
That's why they call it the Marriages Act. So before the Marriages Act, what you used to find was that the various marriages were governed in terms of separate instruments. Mm-hmm. I'll just give you some highlights. So before the Marriages Act, you used to have the Marriage Act chapter 511, right, which says one husband, one wife. That's a monogamous marriage. Right. So it was governed in terms of chapter 5.11. Then you also had the African Marriages Act, right, which used to be chapter 5.07. This one would allow the men to have more than one wife. Okay. So under that setup, you've got a separate law that is governing that, right, which is chapter 5.07. Formerly, it used to be chapter 238. Right. 511 used to be formerly chapter 37. Mm-hmm. What many people says, chapter 37 and so forth. Yes. What people also call them Work Church. So you've got these two types of marriages. Mm-hmm. The third type is not a marriage as such. It has limited recognition, which is what many people used to do and still do, which is called an unregistered customary law union. In other words, no one of us want to a picture of Facebook, what cows came home, and it ends there. But
are you saying that that's not a marriage?
It's not a marriage.
Even though in that post my pictures, African print and everything, Maria Bisqua.
Yeah, it's still not a marriage at law, because what makes it a marriage is the registration part. So when you register a marriage, that's when it becomes a marriage. So you need to elect the type of marriage. So before the Marriages Act, this is the dispensation that we had, yes, where our marriages are being governed by two different regimes, yes, which is the Marriage Act chapter 511, African Marriages Act chapter 5.07. Right. So when the Marriages Act comes, it does something. It consolidates the laws relating to marriage. Right. So rather than you looking for 511, you're looking for 5.07, mm-hmm, you now find everything to do with marriage being governed in one place. Right. That's what it seeks to do. All right. So under Section 5, it introduces what it calls the types or nature of marriages. Mm-hmm. So now we've got a categorization of the various marriages that are now available. So number one, there's something called a civil marriage. Right. A civil marriage is monogamous. Mono means one. Mm-hmm. The gammas part that talks about marriage now. So this is one husband, one wife. Right. That's called a civil marriage. Right. Then, after the civil marriage, the next one is your African customary marriage. Right. That's what you find as well. This again still allows a husband to have more than one wife. All right. Because in customary law, polygamy is recognized. Okay. That's the second type of marriage under the Marriages Act. The third type is called a qualified marriage. A qualified marriage is referring to a marriage that is not recognized or registered as a civil marriage or as a customary marriage, but it's a marriage that is registered according to certain rights, religious rights. All right. So what they were doing when they were crafting that, they were recognizing that certain religions have got a way in which they actually get to solemnize marriages. So they created a third type called a qualified marriage. All right. So three marriage, a civil marriage. Yes. So a civil marriage is equivalent to your 511, right, which is saying one husband, mm-hmm, one wife. Right. Meaning if you are married under a civil, marriage.
You can't marry.
If someone decides to get married again, they are charged with bigamy. It remains an offense.
All right.
If you decide get married again. Then, secondly, in terms of that marriage, if someone decides to have an arrangement, which is adulterous in nature,
Yes.
it means you are actually liable for adultery damages. That's what it means.
So I can still sue?
Yes, you can still sue.
All right.
So later on I'll connect with why they talk about civil partnerships
yes.
and how do they relate to the civil marriage.
Okay.
So this is the setup that we find in terms of the current dispensation,
All right.
where it's one husband and one wife civil. Then African customary marriage, which still says a husband can have more than one wife. That's what we find.
All right.
So the other change that comes is the people we call our marriage officers.
Yes.
So back then, you used to know it's just your fundis and so forth. But now our chiefs have been given power to be marriage officers. So ukato novisa mari wagonenda wa chief, you just follow the formalities, then you're able to actually say watochata customarily.
Okay.
So my chief anochatisa vanhu customarily, they can't do the civil.
That's interesting. I'm trying to think scenario yekuti pane vanhu vasingade zvemachechi anoti haini zvekuchatira kuchechi handisi kuda, so togona kutonoita kamuchato pachifi ka.
Yes, you can, but it's not a civil marriage. It's a customary marriage.
It's a customary marriage.
Yes.
All right.
So wanasoda kuchatira kuchechi, you can still go kwa magistrate.
All right.
Wondochatago. So it expands the scope of marriage officers.
All right.
In terms of the law, it does actually expand that scope.
At one time, I heard you saying something interesting about marriage officers not supposed to pay or make you pay. Not. You know, I don't know how is that?
Yeah, that is the law. A marriage officer is not allowed to charge or even receive a gift.
So if even to receive a gift.
Yeah, you're not allowed to receive a gift.
So what do we do? How do I bring them? Because I think it becomes an expense on their part if I just say come and marry me.
So the idea when you are being made a marriage officer.
Yes.
Is you're occupying a public office.
All right.
So being a marriage officer is a public office, meaning you need to be available for public service.
That's so.
So a number of people want to be marriage officers. It's for commercial reasons. Now they'll be charging you $200 to do your wedding, $300. Some can even talk some crazy amounts. So why the law says don't charge is because when you apply and go through that process, you're simply saying I want to be a public official.
All right.
Same way, that person who becomes a marriage officer also, in a way, even becomes a commissioner of votes as well. Again, commissioners of votes are not allowed to charge.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's actually a criminal offense to charge.
Wow.
Yeah, so you should just walk into any place and they should be commissioning it for free.
Wow, that's
because,
interesting.
yeah, it's a public office.
Thank you for that. And now, here's my question. I don't know why many men are so scared of getting married because they give reasons to say it's expensive and what have you. What's your take? Let me deviate a bit from us talking about that. What's your take on men not wanting to marry? Why is it that they think women want to kill them when they talk of
All right, so the question is, by marriage, are you referring to just kuvisa mari or kutonochata?
Kutonochata.
All right, it's fine. It's because of the myths surrounding that.
Yes.
I actually think it's better kutochata. There's no advantage.
Okay.
Why? Because the moment you get married, the matrimonial clause, it comes into play.
All right.
Which speaks about how do you distribute property in the event of a divorce.
All right.
And since 1927, all our marriages are out of community of property, which means what you bought in Rimskana, what I bought in Rimkovana, it's separate.
All right.
Then we only share what you bought.
So there's no need for a prenup just because I had my assets before we got married.
So when you're doing a prenup in Zimbabwe, you're actually doing a prenup so that you can make your marriage in community of property.
Okay.
Which means what you bought from Komana, what you bought from Skana, you combine.
Oh, right.
Then it's shared 50-50
on
divorce. So right now our marriages are out. In South Africa, they're in community of property.
Okay.
Meaning by the time we divorce, all right. Then we split. So, it's actually much
clarify
better.
something for me. So we have gotten together at Akwayama Properties Edu. Do I still have a need yekuti murume wangu anga ine will kana kuti inini ndinge ndine will kana kuti it's automatic kana kanzi tarambana tiri kushare zvinhu zvedu in half kana kanzi afa I'm getting things what happens?
So it's a different dispensation altogether because it's out of community of property.
All right.
So what you bought, you separate. Then The question is, what did you buy together?
Oh, what did you buy when you were together?
Yes.
All right.
So that's
all right.
now available for distribution.
Wow. Wow.
So in respect of what you bought together, the question is, what is your level of contribution?
All right.
Yeah. So a number of times the disputes are around contribution. Someone is saying, I think as we say, but someone is saying, okay, but I contributed.
I was there, yes.
Like big glasses and massage and so forth.
Exactly.
So that's now called indirect contribution.
All right.
That's what the court looks at.
So it's considered.
Yeah, it is actually considered.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Let's go back to what you were talking about. My question and my interest is on civil partnerships. You said once we are married, and this man is not allowed to have other women. You know, it's monogamous. Fine. But what if this person has got a civil partner outside?
Okay, so let's actually look at what is a civil partnership.
All right.
So a civil partnership, I think that's one of the most misunderstood concepts.
All right.
It arises by virtue of Section 41.
Okay.
So civil partnership arises where there is a relationship between a man and a woman.
Yes.
So there's no scope for homosexuals to be civil partners by operation of the law.
All right.
It doesn't recognize same-sex relationships. So it's a man, woman who are not related.
All right.
So if you are related, it doesn't arise because you can't be even marry. So there is a prohibited degree of relationships in terms of that act,
All right.
which is also found in terms of the Criminal Law and Codification Reform Act. So it's a man, woman over the age of 18
Yes.
who are staying together on a genuine domestic basis without being legally married to each other.
Okay.
So number one, you have to be 18. Number two, you have to be a man and a woman. Number three, you don't have to be related. Number four, you're staying together on what is called a genuine domestic basis. And number five, you're not married.
Okay.
So a civil partnership
Yes.
arises if the parties are staying together without being legally married.
All right.
And they are staying on what is called a genuine domestic basis. So the question is, what is meant by genuine domestic basis?
Yes.
So they don't actually define the term genuine domestic basis,
All right.
but they give some factors which can be considered to be genuine domestic basis. So a civil partnership arises in two instances. Number one, there's a crop of people which is rising, which says, I don't believe in marriage.
All right.
So yes, anditoorina mumkazi elsewhere, andina mumrume elsewhere.
Okay.
I just don't want to get married.
Yes.
But I want to have children.
All right.
I actually don't want to buy property with you. So those people can actually be in a civil partnership because they are not legally married
All right.
to each other, but they are staying together on a genuine domestic basis. So the first group is people who are simply staying together. No one is married to each other. No one is in a relationship with another else.
The
That's
Rora
a
squad people.
Akutorina Rora squad.
Akutorina Rora squad.
No,
Hakuna
sorry,
chaviswa.
hakuna chaviswa.
All right.
So that type of people, group yorukwani kwa stereki.
Okay.
I've actually met several people who say, I've got kids with my partner.
All right.
I do visa marry. They don't believe in marriage. They
Alright.
just want to go garam no again.
All right.
So that's another level of a civil partnership. Then the second level of a civil partnership is the one that has caused noise, where someone is saying, in them Romango chapter 511 back then,
Yes.
so Romango agita mungo what we commonly call small houses.
Yes.
So the act recognizes that a civil partnership can coexist with a civil marriage. In other words, yes, soon civil marriage ago,
Yes.
but uyu civil partner atoriko anato recognize white law. Kuti anagona kunga atoripo.
Okay.
So a civil partnership can actually coexist with a civil marriage.
Right. So can I sue?
For adultery?
Yes, for
Yes,
adultery.
yes, you can sue for
the
adultery.
civil. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, you can.
I think